I'm Shane Hoefer, and this is where I sit down with some of the most interesting individuals that come into my life. I'm Shane Hoefer, CEO of Rocky Mountain Forest Products, and today I have a fascinating guest, Dr. Colleen Vaillancourt, a doctor of chiropractic, an author, an energy worker, a Reiki master, personal coach, health coach, entrepreneur. She likes to say mamapreneur, mom, a lady with many talents. Should be a very, very interesting conversation. Colleen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I want to thank you for inviting me to be on your show today. I'm very grateful for this
Absolutely.
experience with you.
You have you've been a part of our family's life now for, probably 6 or 7 years. You've made a big impact on our life, so it was an obvious next step to have you on here so we could talk a little bit about that and maybe get to know you in a slightly different way than we haven't over all these years.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So the obvious starting point is, tell us a little bit about your background. From what I know, chiropractic was your jumping off point into a lot of these realms. What's your background and how did you get started in that?
So, like we said a bit earlier, that's a long story. It all starts back when I was 11 and then really hit off when I was about 15 years old. I was raised by my mom, who never had the opportunity to go to college or university. So that was a very strong belief for her that you needed to take that next step to be successful in life. So it wasn't a lot of conversation of that. I wasn't pushed on a regular basis, but it's just this common belief that we had in the family. So
an underlying expectation?
Yeah, that was going to be the only way for me to have a successful life. So I had to figure out how I fit into that. She wanted me to be a nurse, a dentist, a dental hygienist, and I had wonderful experiences with nurses and all my dentists throughout the year, but the word I would use now, it didn't resonate with me to do that field. And medical doctor also did not resonate with me. So kind of put it off for a little while, and my mom remarried when I was 15, and I was overnight brought into a family that approached things differently. Now, I grew up in Ontario, Canada, and we didn't go to the doctor often. I didn't have anybody in my house that was dealing with disease on a regular basis. So basically, to go to the doctor, you had to have a broken limb. But if something was wrong, my mom would do over-the-counter cough syrup. I think we ate Flintstones vitamins as kids.
I grew up on Flintstones vitamins and had a record number of cavities the very first time I went to the dentist. And my mom was like, I think it's the Flintstones vitamins. They're loaded with sugar.
They're loaded with sugar. So there was this attempt to have a better approach to things, but not quite getting it. So this new family that I came into did things completely different. I was introduced to supplements, to looking at food differently as medicine. This family had 2 chiropractors, an energy doctor, and a naturopath.
Wow.
In it, or a part of their family. And when you weren't well, they went to supplements, rest.
That was not common back then.
Food. No, not at all. So, because that would have been the 90s, the early 90s that was happening. And so I just felt this connection to it. This family also was exposed to Esther and Jerry Hicks, Napoleon Hill, Louise Hay, and Tony Robbins.
Well, I love all the above, and I intended to talk about Louise Hay with you.
Okay, wonderful. So she's been a huge influence and support and understanding of all of this journey. So yeah, I was exposed to all of this. It resonated with me completely. I started to go to the chiropractors, and these were 2 wonderful men that I ended up having my first chiropractic experiences with, but completely different practitioners. One was an open room concept, applied kinesiology, quick appointment, but you felt great afterwards. The other one was you could be there for 2 hours if you felt like you needed to be. He'd wrap you in a cocoon, attach you to all these modalities, and very much into magnetism.
So more like a therapy rather than just a traditional chiropractic appointment.
Yes. And the first gentleman, Dr. Turner, he did a great history and exam in the beginning, was really about nutrition and posture. And then he ended up doing seminars or little classes in his office that I started going to when I was 16 years old and learning things about nutrition, well-being, and trauma during birth process and stuff like that. So I was just really intrigued by it. And then the other gentleman, Dr. Brownlee, I could ask him any question and he would incorporate biochemistry and chemistry and physics and organic chemistry in the answers. So these things that I was learning and feeling a little bit overwhelmed with in school, he was bringing it all together in a practical way.
Yeah.
So I was really intrigued by that as a profession and how they could operate differently. And so from that point, I went on to finish high school and then go on to secondary school. And I did volunteer with 2 other chiropractors and was just kind of gaining experience. And so I was kind of doing this process of elimination on what can I do with my life? How can I serve? How can I help others? Physical therapy did step in for a moment. I ended up volunteering with a physical therapist and just not an alignment. He was dealing with some issues of anger and frustration on some choices he made, and so that reflected in his practice. So my whole experience there just did not feel good. Yet I had these multiple chiropractic experiences.
Let me interject. Would it be safe to say that at this point you realized that it started to click for you that attitude kind of trumps even like a field or whatever, because this is a field you resonate with, and it doesn't just mean that everyone in this field you're going to click with. Someone's perspective, their mindset, where their head is at, the way they see the world, their worldview, it plays a huge role into the direction, the way that they take all these things.
Absolutely, yeah. You can see that across the board with every profession. You can
Is that when that clicked for you kind of the first time?
As I was starting to see, yes, and just picking up information along the road that, especially for the physical therapists, because there are many wonderful ones and I work with them all the time and co-treat with them. But this one in particular, yes, because of his energy that he brought in to that practice every day, it was coming into the patients that were coming into his office in that moment. And so
just like
I
college
hadn't
age
quite
for you?
put that yet together, but I was seeing that. That's a very good example when I look back on what you bring to your work on that day is going to ripple out and how that profession or how that day is going to go or week's going to go or month's going to go.
Was that about college age for you, if I'm kind of following the story, give or take?
The physical therapist volunteering was right before I went into university. And so after that experience, I was a lot more geared towards chiropractic care at that point. So I started to volunteer with some. I did think about becoming a vet. I love animals, you know that. And
Yeah.
Mom knows that. Such a kinship to animals. But once I learned some of the duties that they had to perform on a daily basis, I knew that wasn't going to work for me. And so I decided to not do that and just adopt animals myself over the years and take care of them that way. So yeah, by the time I was in university, I was geared head first in heading into to chiropractic. I had amazing nutrition professors in university that helped change my whole life or start to add to my understanding of nutrition that I was getting when I was 15, 16, 17 in that family.
Mm-hmm.
I started to learn about food combination, using food as medicine. I personally lost my father. He died when I was 18. And the consequences of his death were based on lifestyle choices and as well as, I believe now, emotional stuff that hadn't been dealt with or taken care of. So based on that, it really, I could have gone 2 roads. I could have been really sad and depressed and followed down some of my dad's lifestyle, but for some reason there was something in me that I wanted to know what could I have known? What could I have helped? How could he have used food as medicine? And so these nutrition professors opened my eyes to understand what food is and how the food industry works and how it's changed over the last 60, 70 years. And so that seemed to have a good tie with chiropractic. I know a lot of people think chiropractic is just about the spine and adjustments, but through these two men, Dr. Turner and Dr. Brownlee, I learned that this is about the whole well-being of the human form, the human function, mind, body, and spirit. And so once I was in university, the food and nutrition part took over, which is something I talk about in my practice. So that's why some people who have different chiropractic experiences, they may never talk about food or nutrition. So that's the gift that you get to bring as your personal experience into each of your practice.
Yeah, that's what really stood out for me. I've gone to different chiropractors throughout my entire life, and none of my experiences were like what I had at Golden Cliffs. And so everything else felt very formulaic. It was like the same adjustment in the same order every single time, and it did help. I felt better. That's why I kept going back. But it was not as inclusive as everything that you had included, and it wasn't as tailored. And also, I was never being taught like, hey, you should change X, Y, and Z in your life, and then this issue that you keep coming back for is going to be minimized. So that's one of the early things that stood out to me when we started working together.
Yeah, that was really important to me, to think of how do I empower the patient to leave here and have X, Y, and Z changed, and what they can do for themselves, because I get to spend, I do spend longer appointment times with people, but still in that time frame it doesn't add up to the amount of time when you're away from me. So
right.
What little pieces of wisdom and support and guidance and encouragement and inspiration can I give to the patient so that they feel like they're a part of this, that it's a teamwork coming together versus I have all the magic. And
so what inspired this philosophy of yours? Was it one of these chiropractors that you watched growing up, or where did you get this approach? Because the other chiropractors I've seen, they don't take anything like this type of approach at all.
I've thought about that. I think it's just a part of who I am and what I came here to do and be. I graduated in my little section in chiropractic school with over 115 people, and I look back at, because you got to know everybody, it was like almost going back to high school again.
Yeah.
What each of them were going to contribute to chiropractic care. Some of us were hands-on healers, and we got the whole picture, mind, body, and spirit. Others were going to do it differently. They were going to do it, how many people can I see in a day? Some were going to be on Capitol Hill fighting for us to have a greater scope of practices. But I was expecting us all to come in and have this same mindset. But even in school, I realized that wasn't the case. So it could be also my personal experiences from that family, and really seeing the benefits as food as medicine, really seeing the benefit of fine-tuning your supplements to your needs in that particular moment. Movement and physical activity was also a big part of my life growing up. I was very athletic, and so when I went to university, I wasn't moving as much. We were studying more, sitting on the bus more, all of that kind of stuff. And so I started to figure out that part of the body part of the movement, and brought in exercise and weight training, and I actually became a personal trainer and a fitness instructor over that time to kind of understand how can I do it for me first and then teach others afterwards. And so I think there's a part of my personality that just came here to shake things up, and know that there's some certain cultural belief systems that are so hard set into place that once you turn this age, this happens. Once you turn to this age, this happens, and then so on. And there was just always something stirring in me, like, I gotta shake this up. This doesn't make sense. We can change things if we really learn the power of our mind, body, and spirit. So.
Well, I think this makes a great segue. So, if we look back to the 90s, like back then, chiropractic was almost seen as fringe, and only the health nut granola types went to a chiropractor. But that actually ended up then becoming the foundation for alternative medicine in the Western world. It's very accepted by the mainstream for the most part now. And then that, in some ways, ended up being a jumping off point for you for other healing modalities. Where did that take you from there?
Absolutely. I think that was a part of my mom would say sassy personality. I would just say that I was a shaker-upper. That choosing chiropractic was just in alignment with who I was. Still in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was a little more accepted, but still, you know, a couple sly remarks about the profession still
Right.
Happening. And that fit me, who I was. Like, let's do this. Let's do something different. If it's not in the mainstream, maybe there's a reason. And I want to explore more into that. So
there's a lot of things about the mainstream that aren't working well. So
Yes.
just because it's mainstream doesn't necessarily mean it's right.
Yes, and so I was noticing, or actually now that you just said that, you know, I wasn't fitting into mainstream. Never did. Even when I was 15, 16, you know, I was trying to fit in with other teenagers and trying to do what the other teenagers were doing. But I was at home reading Louise Hay, Esther and Jerry Hicks, listening to Tony Robbins, meditating, all of those things. And so, yeah, so chiropractic became that next. It just felt right. Everything aligned. I had such great experiences. And then, like you said, now chiropractic is a lot more. As soon as we kind of got into insurances as a profession, people had it more available, so more people were trying it. And then they were having the benefits of it, of course, which were always there for all this time. And it just gone on such a big scale that, yes, it is way more accepted now to be a chiropractor. It's in commercials now, it's in sitcoms, talk shows, like it's all over the place, which is wonderful.
I would think that was probably the first time for a lot of people it clicked about the value of treating the source of a problem rather than the symptom.
Yes.
The number of people that had pain that weren't treating back pain with a pain pill, you would treat the misalignment, all of a sudden, oh, I feel better, and I don't have to be on pills.
Yeah.
So I think that opens a huge door for people to start thinking differently. Because I think that's the biggest flaw of Western medicine, is it has a tendency to treat the symptom rather than find the cause and address that.
Yeah, that is Western medicine. And I don't know when it switched, because there's many cultures that still do food as medicine. It was, over here in North America that Western medicine, the medical world, things could happen quicker for people. And because we became a society here about no rest and more going and more doing and less being, that was, I don't know if it was ever fostered in this culture or if it was lost, because I haven't been around that long to know if it did. Well, obviously it existed on this land at some point, but within the Western culture that moved in, so yeah, it is the essence. If you go back thousands of years, people were doing this.
Yeah.
It's nothing new, but we're just tapping back into it because it's needed, of course, big time right now, to go, where's the source? And looking at it not just from the physical aspect, but what's going on up in here as well.
Yeah, I would say one of the first, so I started with chiropractic, but then another big turning point in my medical worldview, if you want to say, was I was having chronic migraines in my early 20s, and my family doctor actually recommended I go see an acupuncturist. And he analyzed my diet and talked about how I had too much heat built up in my body and I needed to change this and eliminate this and don't eat this at this time of day and eat more watermelon. And at this, nothing, like there's very low cost for me to try all these things. Mm-hmm. And I tried them and my migraines virtually went away and disappeared. And so that was one of the first times that it was really clicking with me of like, all right, so Western medicine doesn't have it all figured out. And so hat tip to my doctor at the time to, being a Western doctor, but also, integrating when he saw fit, Eastern modalities and philosophies. And so that made me just sit there and think, maybe there's something to be said for both. Yes. In the right time and place. And I think that more and more people in our society are starting to think that way.
There was a time where I wanted it to be all alternative, if you want to use that word. It's not used as much anymore. But no, how do we work together on this? They are needed very much so in specific situations, but how do we move away? And this is the whole shift that I feel that's happening right now on a collective level, on getting to the source of everything and not running around treating one symptom, because I think we've caught on now that one prescription medicine creates another symptom, and then you can chase that symptom, and then that new prescription drug creates another symptom, and then you're just chasing, and before you know it, you're on 5 or 6.
I'm getting visions of my great-grandma's kitchen table that had this huge pile of medicines for her and my great-grandpa. It's just like, that's insane the amount of medications that were on their table.
Yeah, so it was something new and exciting to think you could find that magic purple pill to help something, but there's so many layers to dis-ease in the body that need to be looked at, and there's acupuncture is a great profession to help with the whole meridian system, the whole mind-body connection, the food, the heat. I was probably referring to inflammation in your body based on the foods that are available, based on the lifestyle that we are currently driven to live in this North American culture that we are in.
Yeah, I don't know what he meant by heat, because Dr. Kui was very difficult to understand and his English vocabulary is very limited, but he did help me.
Yeah.
And it was the craziest thing too. I had a lot of inflammation in my wrist from being a guitar player at the time. Okay. And it got so inflamed I couldn't move my thumb. And so they were giving me cortisone shots and doing all this stuff, and it would help temporarily, and then it would just go right back. And I still don't know how this all worked, but there was one day I went in there for acupuncture, and he put in one pin in one place, and all of a sudden, for the first time in months, I had complete mobility of my thumb. I'm like, we need to understand this more.
Yes.
And so I think that's
it to be available more.
Yeah. So these are the things that slowly got me to start opening my eyes to, all right, I think I need to think outside the traditional box.
Yeah. And
so
when I was in that family, I only lived with them a couple years because I was 15 and then off to school. But they had an energy doctor and a naturopath. And so, yeah, things where if you had an upset stomach or a headache, I had a headache not very often, but what my stepdad would do is he would take one of his ties and he would put magnets all around them, and I'd have to walk around with a tie wrapped around my head with all these magnets to help. That was from Dr. Brownlee, the magnetism chiropractor. And so, yeah, just different ways to approach things without putting chemicals into your body. But yeah, the energy doctor was a great experience. I wish I wish I would asked her more questions, what she was doing, what was going on. I used to just go there and she would do her stuff and I would leave. And so that later led me into Reiki. She wasn't a Reiki master. They just called her the energy doctor. And then the naturopath experience was my next level of awareness of what foods particularly does my body not agree with. Does it see as a foreign invader, or does it see as just difficult to digest in that now moment? And so that led me to more food nutrition. Now later, as you were just mentioning earlier, came this energy part, what was missing when I started practicing. I understood the biomechanics, I understood food and nutrition, I understood physical movement, but then I started to see patterns in people. Why the left thumb? Why the right hip? Why the headaches? Why the constant indigestion? And I had been exposed to Reiki when I was probably in my early 20s. My mom was getting into crystal healing and Reiki at that time. And I didn't have a really great first experience with the couple. They were just Reiki students practicing, so they didn't have a lot of wisdom to give me in that now moment. But it was always in the back of my mind. Like, I want to know more about it. I want to know more. And chiropractic school, it's a busy time. It's a 5-year course or program that's condensed down to 3 1/3 years. So 7 to 9 classes per trimester.
Wow.
No breaks in between. Go, go, go. Until clinic, where things opened up But I did create a course in my chiropractic college. They were lessening the philosophy, which was kind of disappointing, and lessening some of the alternative classes, like applied kinesiology. So we created a class that had alternative practitioners come in, and we called a bunch acupuncture, Reiki, naturopaths to come in and talk to the students. And that's when I met. She didn't end up being my Reiki teacher because she lived kind of far from my school, but that was my first Reiki experience, which was just insane. Everyone was kind of nervous. Like, she said, "Can I have a volunteer?" And nobody in the class put their hand up. So as the host, I put my hand up and went up and sat in this chair. And she was teaching people about Reiki and chakras and all of that. And she put her hands, one in the front of my belly and one and through a chair. And I felt this massive wave of energy going through my solar plexus, my belly button area. So much I wanted to push her hands away at first. And she was still talking to the class. And I was having this experience. And I never forgot that. And but went on to finish school, went on to start my practice. And within a couple years, met somebody who had a Reiki master here in Colorado. And she lives up in Netherlands. And so I ventured out there with my mind of like, you teach me, what do you got? And it was an incredible experience. And so got trained in Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Karuna Reiki 1, Karuna Reiki 2, which is just more symbols to call in to a healing session. And then started practicing Reiki on myself, on just a few others, and then decided to take the path to become a Reiki master, Reiki teacher, which to me meant I had to be fully in alignment with living that path. And so it wasn't something you did in a weekend. I did it over a year, but actually I also felt ready to start the journey of what that was going to look like.
Yeah, it was interesting. My first introduction to that was my mom doing it, and I'm like, "Oh, Reiki! I don't know anything about that. What is that?" She's like, "It's like healing with light." That's about as you could tell she didn't really want to go into it, and I'm thinking it's like actually using physical light, and didn't go deep into it. But then, as a moment of synchronicity, there was a book I was listening to within that same week by Dr. Bruce Goldberg. He's this psychologist, hypnotist, past life regressionist, that kind of thing. And one of his books mentioned it in passing, and I was like, "Huh." And it was shortly thereafter that Mom's like, "I think you should go meet Dr. Colleen." So, kind of touches on Reiki, kind of not, but some of the stuff you said makes me think about Louise Hay, and you were talking about seeing common threads of one person and it's always the left thumb or something like that. How did Louise Hay, and for people that aren't familiar with Louise Hay, explain her a little bit and how that fit into this whole story that you're telling and how that influenced you?
So Louise Hay really just fell into this world and heal your body, heal your mind. She has so many books going in different directions, but when I came into knowing her, it was about how to heal your body and through your thoughts and through your mind. And she's created the book, and there's other books out there as well, but she really took dis-ease in the body, probable cause, and then affirmations on how to apply that to that particular area. So left knee can be resentment, rigidity, not going with the flow of life, resisting against life. Left side for Louise Hay is your feminine side. So was there particular incidences in your life that happened emotional wise that caused that, or female influences that caused that on that left side? So I'd take it another deeper layer under, but the affirmation would be simply, I'm flexible and flowing. And so you have to feel, what does that feel like for me when I actually say that affirmation?
Do you think that if you were to bring this type of stuff up to someone having that issue, that like almost intuitively they're going to have a thought of like, oh, this a feminine influence that I'm rigid with? Maybe like something's going to pop in their head and they're going to think about that, and that's probably what it relates to?
Yes. I think for me, chiropractic we're very much taught to be a technical, biomechanical, neuromusculoskeletal specialist doctor. And when I started to see these patterns, I would start these conversations. And now I start them pretty much in the first visit versus rather than the getting to know afterwards. Like, do you understand affirmations? Do you understand mantras? Do you understand how body or disease resonates in the body? And so starting to open that up more right off the bat, because that was a little nerve-wracking for me in the beginning, and tying those together since it wasn't a part of the education part of school.
Was it nerve-wracking just because it wasn't tied together, or nerve-wracking because you didn't know how people would respond?
Both. I didn't know how to do it, and I was like, oh, chiropractic is just starting to be accepted.
Did you ever have situations where people push back, like, why are you asking these questions?
Oh, yeah. I'd have a couple, are you interested in an affirmation or a mantra? No. Just adjust me. That's all I want. That was years ago. Now, with the vibe, with where I'm at, that's who I'm attracting into the office, that want those affirmations, that are getting that there is a mind, body, spirit connection. So for, almost a decade now, it's been so much easier, which is also where the Reiki practice has been. It's just about 11 or 12 years old now. So kind of starting to see those two tie together. But I was living as a chiropractor in one room and a Reiki teacher in the other room. And eventually for me, probably 8 or 9 years ago, I brought those two together, which also was my healing as well needed. It's because I had to start being the whole of who I am, not playing these two parts. And so, you can't tell which room is which in my office anymore, which is the chiropractic room, which is the Reiki room, other than the beautiful candles and all of that that's in the Reiki room. But if you look closely, there are candles in the chiropractic room as well. But it's a very much a strong part of my practice now.
I think that's probably why I really resonated with what you were doing very early on, because while it is completely misunderstood, I feel like what I do at Rocky Mountain is very similar to that. Chiropractic is my surface level running a business the way my father taught me how to do it. Running financial statements and looking at numbers and products and margins and stuff like that. But there felt like there was a huge piece missing as I would stand back. I asked the question, like, were you in your teens as you were watching these things happen? Because I was in my teens and my 20s watching my dad and realizing why some of the things I watched didn't vibe with me. And it was missing this entire emotional, energetic component to things. And there's especially in modern day entrepreneurial capitalist business, there's very little in the way of that there is an energetic, emotional component to all those things. But when I integrated that with a little bit of help with, Tony Robbins would have been an early person starting to lay that groundwork, but then the Fred Dodsons and others, and just kind of going out intuitionally, started to have huge success. And I think that's what our society needs in all aspects, not just in health and physical well-being and mental, emotional well-being, but a mental and physical well-being will make all aspects of our life come together, including business, including our physical form, every portion.
Every aspect. It doesn't escape anything anymore. And I think when I went to chiropractic school, because that is the essence of chiropractic, the power that made the body heals the body. And that's what I was being really drawn to. Fortunately, I did have a great education. My school, because of the pressure of national boards and having to pass those boards, we were getting less philosophy in my particular school and less alternative. I did have some older chiros within as my professors, so we would learn little things here and there, but there are some chiropractic schools that have a much larger philosophy based that I learned afterwards. So got a great education, came out as a great technician, but that essence of chiropractic, it was being lost, in particular in my school. So it was becoming more mechanical and less spiritual. And but my body was still being drawn to it, and I ended up having to go the route through Reiki as well as many other countless, like you said, Frederick Dodson and other amazing consciousness energy teachers out there, to start building that part up. And because it's very much as it should be in chiropractic as it is in Reiki, but I think some parts of chiropractic we're trying to fit in too much, and we're losing that essence.
I kind of want to poke around on this, because I feel like where you were at in those early days of trying to figure out how to bring this up, like bringing up the mantra aspect of things in a traditional chiropractic appointment, in some aspects that's where I'm at in business today. Like, I never know how to throw that feeler out there into whether or not someone is open to these other ideas, which I personally think is at the core of the success that we've had around here. How did you overcome those hesitancies and just get to the place where you say it doesn't matter, or did you just build on the successes when someone did respond well? How did you deal with that time when you were in that transition of gaining confidence?
I think it was just seeing the results in my own life unfold, and you just can't deny it anymore. And I got to a point where I felt this early on in my practice. I wanted only patients who were going to resonate with me and take me in, though I didn't have the tools yet on how to do the imagination work, the manifesting work, the spending time. And I didn't want to be desperate, like I'm going to take anyone who comes in, and so getting out of lack, but I did lack the tools in doing that. So as I gained the tools in doing that and started using the tools, actually, practicing the tools, I was now bringing in more people where there felt like a more residency on that first appointment, where I was like, I think I can do this. But there was, it was just me building confidence to just go, I just need to be me, and I need to have a practice that resonates with me, and I can't keep seeing a person over and over again and taking their money. It's not going to sit well with who I am as a person if I don't share this wisdom. And if they take it, they take it, and if they don't, they don't. At least I know that I did my part, or maybe planted a seed in that time, and maybe in a year from then they'll come back to me and go, hey, I was thinking maybe I should get a trainer and start working out more. And before I'd be like, oh, I told you to do that. But now it was like, awesome. Just took a year for me to plant that a couple times, and then have it grow into a point where it came through them, that they were ready in that time. So the more I saw that happen in my practice, it was like, okay, plant more seeds. And it's just really just, you just, at some point I was like, you just have to be you in this appointment and say whatever comes to you, and stop holding back what is there. And whether they're ready to take it or not, that became, I guess at one point I did go up to my Reiki teacher and I said, hey, I'm teaching them this, they're not getting it. And she said, that's not your job. They have to be an equal part in it. All you can do is keep doing you, healing you, showing up as yourself, and planting, not necessarily consciously planting seeds, but just being you. Therefore planting seeds. And they'll either drift away because they're not in resonance or ready, or they'll act on it. But don't put timing on anything anymore for people.
Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty much the same me all the time. And if someone asks me why I do something a given way, I'll never beat around the bush. But sometimes I'm just more proactively forthcoming about, I don't ever want to be the guy that gives free advice, right? No one likes free advice. But sometimes you sit back and you watch a situation and you're like, I know exactly why this is happening. But they're not asking, so should I say anything?
Right.
Probably not.
That's something for me too. If they ask, yes, you can share your experience. But if not, come from a place of understanding that they're in a space right now that they need to be in, and send them love and compassion in that space. And because attempting to want them to be any other way than they currently are in that moment, that's based on your perspective and your point of view in that now moment. And so if they come to you, then obviously something clicked in them.
Right.
That they're noticing that their now moment, their now experience is not working for them. But until they have that, then it could actually push them away.
Absolutely, because most of these big epiphanies I had, these big things that are now foundational pieces of my life philosophy, came through really dark times of my life.
Yeah.
Like it took a big event for me to actually change the way I was willing to look at the world, and so they very well may be in the same spot. But
yeah, I don't know if that could switch. I have a little girl. She's my experiment in this world of learning how your thoughts work and how to manifest and imagination. And but yeah, do we need those hard times? Is there a foundation that could happen when we were little, or is this just how we're designed?
oh, I'm trying to figure out how to have no more of those hard times. I'm trying to be way more proactive. What am I missing right now? Because I don't want to do more hard times.
Yeah, and that's really getting to just practice meditation more, practice more, visualize more, because as you know, we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, and 90 to 95% of those are repeated every day, and we're only conscious, the average person's only conscious 5% of the day, and if you meditate more, that becomes a higher percentage. But we're running off of subconscious, unconscious programs. And so, what are those programs? And you can look right out into your reality to see those. And so it just takes time, and it's worth it. Just practice. Getting to know what are some of these core root limiting negative belief systems that you're holding, and start to dismantle them one by one. Not push them away, not try to make them anything different, but be with them and then start to dismantle them, and then start reintegrating a new neural network system on your and putting your focus and intention onto those, so therefore energy, right, into those thoughts, and then go for it, practice and fine tune it. So yeah, do we need to have certain circumstances happen that really flip a switch for us? And I've had, I can name quite a few in my life that were like, whoa, okay. Even though I was doing good and was conscious and thinking and reading, you just don't even know where you can be until sometimes even those big ones. So even though I was on that certain paths of spiritual work, if you want to call it, I didn't know where I could take that until I had some of these big moments, what I was actually capable of. And I wouldn't be here today practicing the way I do if I hadn't had those particular experiences for me.
For sure, yeah. I definitely had the big life-jarring moments, but some of my biggest breakthroughs were done proactively, like just learning the power of, I didn't even call it visualization out the gate. It was just imagination. And it was from a Fred Dodson book. It was basically, at a place in my life where I just wasn't as happy as I wanted to be. And I remember reading in a Fred Dodson book about, look, what would be your ideal situation right now? For me, it was being on a beach in Hawaii. He's like, great, so if you've done that, close your eyes and imagine that, and you can have that exact same feeling right now. And I remember there would be times I would be stressed out. It was a time I was still kind of trying to find myself in my late 30s or mid 30s. My dad and I were ramming heads, and I would do that just more and more often just for the sake of it brought me peace. And I think that opened the door for me to become more aware of what my thoughts were, because I saw the benefit that having peaceful, happy thoughts had on my overall psyche for the day. Then I started to become more aware of when that negative voice would start going off. And then it just came to a place of like, I don't really want to hear that negative voice ever. Mm-hmm. And that really changed everything about me. And that was kind of like you were saying, you learn from experience. That gives you more and more confidence. You look at how things have affected your own life, and you're like, I have to just be true. So occasionally in business, though, I get these people that I know they're not on that journey at all. They're like, what's the secret to Rocky Mountain success? Like, I could tell you, but I don't think it's going to click with you. But what's really cool is I think everyone around here at Rocky Mountain gets it. Just like you say, you attract the right patients, we're attracting the right people, both employees and customers.
Yeah, and I think especially Frederick Dodson, I know you and I've talked a lot on him, is great for how to apply it to a business. So if you have those different states of consciousness come in, where can I be most successful in this now moment with this particular individual to maybe get to them to really get what it is that created that success for you. And I had that too as I was growing in my vibration, as my energy, my high states of consciousness were spending more time, like you said a second ago, in higher states of consciousness. I was drawing in those individuals ready for that information that I had for them in Reiki. But then I was referred a patient through a mom to a child, to her daughter. And when she came in, we were at a completely different level. She knew what Reiki was, but didn't know what Reiki was. So I fully went back and used Frederick Dodson to go, oh my gosh, I have to bring myself back down to this.
Meet her where she's at.
Yeah, because if I talk up here, I'm just going to push her away. So I loved his take on it and his approach on how to use it with the different levels so that I could successfully help her in that now moment where she was at.
Yeah.
And we've had so much great success. She's continued to come. It's been several months. She's feeling it in her body, this shift that wants to happen, even though there's some layers because we were below the 100 mark.
Oh, wow.
In some of the areas. So, but she's still coming, and there's something
driving her intrigue and bringing her back. That's awesome.
I think that was me shifting as well to match her and just be a little bit above her where I can leave
Always
her.
be in that place to offer the helping hand to pull her up to,
absolutely.
Yeah, to
and
a
that's
better state.
What you were saying before, that time that takes. Again, Elizabeth, my daughter, I've been trying to work with her to have a positive foundation and see if that will bring her more success quicker in this, not needing to do as much in the 30s and the 40s. My last biggest thing was about nine years ago, and now I've been very proactive on doing my own work in meditation time, so I don't have to have the experiences happen in my external reality as much, that I'm in control of that. But for those that didn't have that upbringing and didn't have that chance in this culture, yes, there is the fear-based, negative-based chatter that goes on in everybody's mind. And there's this development that you want to have of a more spiritual, love-based chatter going in the mind. And so that's what I focus on first, is having people strengthen that and put more focus and attention as you heal wounds and traumas at the same time. Because this voice, the negative chatter, never goes away. Yeah. I tried to eradicate it, but now I see its purpose and its benefit. So I actually compliment it when it does its job in my mind, when it is when I'm in a situation where I need to think of survival and have some fear. I say thank you very much. I also have a busy thinking mind when it says, hey, don't forget to bring the books today. I was like, oh, thank you so much. You did your job. I don't want it constantly telling me what I need to do all day long, but when it does its job, and then have this spiritual love voice kind of governing it all right now. And that takes time to create all these different shifts and then be more consistently in this space. And to me, that's just the beginning of it all. So that's just personality. Those are all still egos. Yeah. And then comes the fun stuff, working with Mother Earth, with Source Energy, with your higher self, with your Cosmo family, and just taking it to that next level, all while fine-tuning what you said, using your imagination on a daily basis. Think about all the minutes of the day that we use just going and doing and stuff, instead of spending more of that time quiet, just being and creating the next now moment. Yeah. Trying to do the next now moment, then create it.
I spent years thinking about scenarios that might happen that I didn't want to happen instead of the future I actually wanted.
Yes.
So that was my big breakthrough, and I could talk on that forever. And you said a bunch of things that I wanted to talk on, but we're probably gonna have you come back because we're slowly running out of time. You mentioned your books. I want to talk about your books because your book set is amazing. It is you taking what you've been trying to do as you raise your daughter and offer it out to the whole world. If I could summarize it in my own words.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Tell me about the book series that you wrote.
So, for me, Esther and Jerry Hicks and a few other authors I was exposed to in my late teens, law of attraction, visualizing, manifesting, and all of that. And so I was probably 17, 18 when I got my hands on the Sarah book series and a couple other books. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I had these when I was younger, like 9, 10, 11, 12. So my first idea was to write middle school books, chapter books.
I did not know that.
Yes, and that was my first take on it. And I had 5 characters here. And so I guess I'll backtrack for a second. These are imps. They're little, some people think they're fairies. They're imps. So I was having a conversation during undergrad with my grandma, and she called me a little imp. She said when I was a kid I was a little imp, and I didn't know what an imp was in that now moment. So I went home and searched it out, and it was mischievous little, and I was like, I never thought of myself as mischievous, more curious and observing. I was constantly observing people and their behaviors. So that always stuck in my mind, and I started creating these characters, and I believe it was just Noosa, Rifi, Vera, Ria, and Tari, and there's hidden messages and everything beyond. And so Tari actually is water.
Okay.
And Ria is air, and Rifi is fire, and Thera is earth.
Okay.
So that became the essence. And then Noosa is sun. And so it was all starting to come off into these different layers. So I tried to write a chapter book, and I wasn't quite as successful in creating the literature that was needed behind it to build the characters, to build the world, to build the story. And so at this point, I now had my daughter, and we were reading children's book, and one thing I was really good at was writing poetry. And I noticed that a lot of the books I was reading to her was poetry. And I thought, wow, maybe I could do that and go from, instead of the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 age group, go to the 0 to 9 age group. And not only make it a tool for the kids to be exposed to something, but also the parents having a book on how to introduce this stuff, because we were now resonating at it more, and we needed more books to support that process. So then I realized how much my daughter loved rainbows. And then with Reiki, the chakras are the colors of the rainbow. And it just started to unfold and unfold more and more to add 2 more characters. So there's 7 characters in total. All represent one color of the rainbow. All represent each chakra. So the story for each book also is a play off of the chakra and its meaning as well. And then in the back of the book, in each book, we have a new belief that complements the chakra, discovery questions, meditation for that chakra, yoga poses that also have been written about to promote movement in that chakra, gemstones that support, and essential oils. And then in the back, a glossary, so giving parents some more information. So if their child asks, what does intention mean? What does intuition mean? They'll have something right then and there, so that their vocabulary can grow.
By the time, this is where I was at. My kids were older, so I've never wrestled with explaining intuition and intention to a 6-year-old.
Right. So you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Just make it a known word, a common word. And now, yes, I'm noticing Elizabeth, the age she's at now, turning 9, turning 10, that she's using them. She's understanding them. She's trying to explain them. And so before it was just her listening, of
Yeah.
course, through all that. And so that's really what this is. There's lots of beautiful things in the background.
I want to go off on a tangent real quick. What was it like to actually get published, to pull this off, to see it come into print, to be able to offer them, to see it manifest fully? What was that like?
It was amazing. Like I said, I started with this chapter book. I had drawn the characters. I did work with an artist, and she brought them to the next level, but I had sketched.
Huge for books this age.
Yeah, so I sketched them myself, and then it got put in a folder and stuck in a filing cabinet.
How many years is this from your first conception to the time it actually came?
Over 10.
Wow.
Over 10 years. And,
that had to feel amazing to finally see that come to fruition.
Yes, because it was lost, and I was actually looking for them because I just really wanted to show Elizabeth the characters I had drawn, and then just randomly one day they were found and came back into my life, and then I put it out there. I wanted to do this, and it was actually Louise Hay's self-publishing Balboa Press that was putting on, do you want to publish a book? We will help support you. Do that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is full circle. This is Louise Hay's self-publishing department, and I pitched my book to them because they don't accept all books to be published, and I got approved for it. And so, yeah, putting it together, the first book took the longest, just kind of fine-tuning it, and then the second book, and yeah, within 2 years, they were all completed and sitting in my hands.
It's a
and
huge
seeing
accomplishment.
them come in color, and yeah, I'm very excited.
Wow. Well, that's a huge accomplishment. So big congratulations to you on that. And it's a space that is, I think, from my limited perspective, it's completely untapped. No one's really doing anything for this age range to try to talk about consciousness in this regard. One of the things that you're doing in the back of these books, and what you did for me in Reiki, is I think you made the chakras very, very practical. You know, I think from an outsider, you may have heard of chakras. You see them on a flag in some crystal shop somewhere, and you don't know how it applies to you. And for me, it's a checklist. It helps me immediately know where I'm out of balance in life, what I'm struggling with, why. I had a dream the other night that I had a nail stuck in my throat, and I've got this little cough that has plagued me over time. As I think about it, it makes me cough. What's going on with my throat chakra, my self-expression right now? What do I need to be looking at? Where am I not expressing myself, arguably? Anyway, so it's been very, very practical, and that's what I think is cool with this is adults could get a ton out of these books, but it's accessible even for children. So I applaud you for putting this together, because I think I don't know of anything else like it out there at all.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I wanted it to be more exposed in the younger ages, but also be a tool for the parent that's trying to figure this stuff out. And for me in Reiki, you guys go home with a sheet that has as much information I could fit on two sides, because that was something I didn't get. I got told what chakra, which energy vortex wasn't open. Sometimes I didn't even get told that. And you were just left to go, I hope everything will stay open.
Yeah. If without that knowledge, it's kind of like the same way Western medicine treats you. We fixed your symptoms, now go away.
Yeah.
But you may have the same pattern going on that's causing a chakra to shut down, and then you have the same emotional dysfunction going on in your life.
Absolutely. And same with into chiropractic as well.
Yeah.
Like you can just keep repeating these patterns, or I want to go send the sheets home and go, here it is. I know it's a lot. Just take it in as you can. But yeah, as much to give, as much knowledge and wisdom out to everyone else so that they can start applying it practically to their day-to-day, simply like that. Oh, I have a cough. Okay, throat chakra. What have I not said? What have I said? Have I been harsh? Have I judged? Have I criticized? What are these patterns that I need to start, being more accountable and responsible for?
And this is a repeating pattern in my life. I go through phases where I get this. So it's obviously, my body's trying to get my attention in some way.
Yes.
So
meditation time, just to reflect on that, practice. It's probably something really from a long time ago, of not being able to express yourself or be seen or heard in that now moment. And so, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's, I just kind of threw that out there as an example. Like, this is how this has become very practical for me. So instead of me going to a doctor immediately, hey, I got a cough I can't get rid of, I start thinking the other way. What is this telling me about, what do I know about the throat chakra? What does it represent,
Yeah, how am I a part of this? And what can I do to help it in this now moment?
And using this philosophy has helped me uncover all kinds of things that I need to adjust in my life, and then those problems go by the wayside.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially that you said earlier that the worst case scenario, when you play those, it's just a conditioning old pattern. I used to do the same thing. I'd go to bed and just think about what I had planned for the next, week, and what this would happen and how I would prepare for it. And I thought I was doing good by preparing for all the bad that could happen.
Right.
And then eventually it was like, wait a minute, no. This is just keeping you down in a low state of vibration, of consciousness, of energy. And how do you change this pattern? So there is some, inner battle that goes on as you go through this transition from, which part is running the show of you, and how do you just, every single time show up for yourself, be more accountable, more responsible, that no, I am the creator of my reality. My thoughts become things. Let's get down to work and make this the life I always dreamed of.
Love it. Well, I think we covered a lot of ground today, and I think we laid a good groundwork for people that know nothing about this world whatsoever. I would love to have you back to talk about even deeper stuff, meditation, more into consciousness, the higher self in particular. I think that was a very, very powerful concept for me that really helped. That helped alleviate so much of my stress in so many ways, which that's going to be a teaser for another time that we get you on here. But if you would be willing to come back, I'd love to have you back to talk about some of these other concepts now that we've laid a groundwork for who you are and what you're all about.
I would love that. That would be great.
If someone is interested in either connecting with you for chiropractic, for Reiki, get the books, how do people find Dr. Colleen Vaillancourt?
So I have a website. It is goldenCliffschiro.com. So GOLDENCliffschiro.com. You go in there, and if you go down to contact us, you can email me directly. There's also the phone number for both chiropractic and Reiki. And the books, you can go to drcolleenbooks.com, so DRCOLLEENBOOO. Did I do too many O's?
You did 3 O's.
BOOKS.com, and you can learn more about each of the books on that site, and they are available for sale on balboapress.com, Amazon, and Barnes & Noble.
You're all over the place.
I am.
We're going to start calling you Dr. Colleen big time.
Yes. Oh. I thought you were just going to call me Dr. Colleen a lot, but no. Dr. Colleen big time.
Yeah, because you're big time now. You're everywhere.
I am. Thank you.
All right, thanks again for coming.
You're welcome.